Well, the second week of the NJCAA season is history, and for some teams in the Central District, it's a week to forget. There was some good, a lot of bad, and a milestone that was reached in the district this week, however. We have a lot to unpack with the amount of games starting to ramp up, so let's go ahead and jump into it with the first team being Wabash Valley. Wabash Valley game against Harry S. Truman was postponed this week, but as promised from last week, the stats against Moraine Valley came in, and Muja Burton led the way for the Warriors with 16 points, and Julian McGowan and Daniel Robinson added 13 apiece. The biggest thing that came out of this game, even though the Warriors only lost by 2, is the fact that they shot 38.6% from the field and 21.7% of that from behind the arc. That's no way that you're going to be able to win a game here in the district, essentially because you're going to get out rebounded and you're going to be a lot of one and done type shots. So the Warriors go 0-2, and unfortunately they didn't have a game this week. But let's go ahead and jump into the next team, the SWIC Blue Storm. The Blue Storm lose to the Cardinals of Mineral Area 72-51 as the Cardinals shot 10 of 27 for 37% from behind the arc, while SWIC was 4 of 16. Saxon Hokeeper led the way for the Blue Storm with 12 points and 12 rebounds. Mineral Area, as I said, won that game 72-51 and is now 2-0 against teams in the Central District. However, SWIC bounced back in a big-time way, enjoying a 97-59 rout over the Missouri Baptist JV team. Sam Parrish hit threes and scored 15 points for the Blue Storm, while Ashley Kitchen added 13 points and Bennett Bryles netted 11. So SWIC going 1-for-1 this week, and it's going to be interesting to see how this new set of week turns out for the Blue Storm. Finally, let's talk about some good, as Kaskaskia continues to be that good news in the district, as the Blue Devils won their third straight home game, defeating Southeastern Illinois 96-63. Will Vesser paced 4 KC players with 17 points, as Isaiah Tobort scored 15, Eric Price scored 12, and Lionel Hodges also had 12. Again, that used to be a district opponent in Southeastern Illinois. They moved down to a club team a couple of years ago. So Kaskaskia able to continue to win against teams that used to be in the district, and they just continued that again against Missouri Baptist, this time winning a closer matchup 80-62. Again, Vesser led the way with 17 points. He shot 5 of 12 from the field, but here's the really crucial thing. He was 4 of 5 from behind the arc. Caleb Jenkins was another starter that had a hot hand. He added 15 points, and he was 6 of 9 from the field. Finally, Kobe Wilmont came off the bench and added 15 points for the Blue Devils as well. Again, finally starting to find that core group of people that Coach Hancock can really rely on as we start to get into the late part of November, early December, late November is when the district really starts to pick up and you have your first couple of games right around that Thanksgiving holiday. Lincoln Trail had another tough team as they played Three Rivers, and Three Rivers goes 2-0 against the district to start off the year, as well as the Statesmen fell 80-67. Asuye Ulale paced the way for the Statesmen with 16 points, while Caden Hinderlocker scored 14. The biggest thing again here, and I said it for Wabash Valley, and I'll say it for Lincoln Trail, was the fact that the Statesmen were only 18% from behind the arc. They shot 3 of 17. That was really the big key, the reason that the Statesmen fell to Three Rivers, as you're hearing a little bit of admiration for that as well. But here's the other flip side of that coin, is the Lincoln Trail Statesmen kept the scoreboard blinking, setting a record home win, 133-58 over the Greenville JV team. There were 7 Statesmen in double figures, led by Gabe Morgie, who had 23 points. Jamarius McCray and Devin Bell added 17 each, 13 by Hinderlocker, and 12 from Ollie Alford and Jordan Moore. So take the good the 133-58 over the bad of losing the Three Rivers 80-67. Again, Lincoln Trail is one of these weird teams where you don't really know where they sit until you hit district play. And I think, unfortunately, this year it's going to be more of the same. You won't know really what the statesmen are going to be until you hit that December, January swing. Unfortunately, let's go ahead and talk more bad. As Logan, the number 4 team in the preseason poll, again, this is going to be posted up Monday, November 13th. So the polls will not be set by the recording of this. So they're still number 4 in the polls. They lose game 1 of the McDonald's Classic in Vincennes to the Mustangs of Monroe. And really, this was not a game. Monroe built a 23-point lead with 4 minutes left to go in the first half. Logan chipped away in the final 20 minutes and got it within 5. But with less than 2 minutes to go, Monroe really just sealed it out. The biggest thing out of this game, and I said this was one of my games to watch, was that Logan had 28 turnovers. They won the rebounding battle 42-35. Alfred Worrell led the way for the Vols with 14 points off the bench. But again, the 28 turnovers, Coach Smith-Peters knows this. That's not a way to win a ball game, especially a Mustangs team that came off of a loss against Olney, which we'll talk about later on. It's just one of those where it was unfortunate. Luckily, for the first time in 4 games, they win and beat Daly 87-55 in the third game of the tournament, or in the Classic, excuse me, not a tournament. Julian Norris topped the way with 15 points. Worrell and Jordan Logan scored 14 off the bench as well. Elliot Londis scored 11 points. Worrell hit trays, and Logan as a team shot 11 of 36, 31% from behind the arc. The Vols led at 33 at the half, and this game was never in doubt. They finally pick up a win going into the 2023-2024 season. Speaking of the Blue Knights, let's go ahead and talk about them and their lone game this week, a 77-73 thriller win over Monroe. Monroe, again, flew in from New York, flew into Indiana, and traveled the half an hour to Olney to take on the Blue Knights. Really, this was a game to behold. It was a back and forth affair. Well, this was probably one of the bigger upsets, as Olney beats, again, the 25-ranked Monroe Mustangs 77-73. The New Yorkers stepped up the off defensive pressure in the final half and actually led this game 66-65 with a Falopa inside basket. There were 3 lead changes before JT Thomas slipped to give the Blue Knights the final lead at 69-68. Delshawn Sims sailed a couple of trays, none more than the last one to really seal it away at 74-68. Monroe came close to tying the ball game 74-73 after Vargas hit a triple with 15.1 left to play, but Darian Lewis hit a couple of free throws with 11.5 on the clock. Again, Delshawn Sims was one of the leading scorers. He hit 3 of 8 trays for the Blue Knights. Unfortunately, the 8 threes was the only thing that the Blue Knights hit. They were 8 of 23. Only out-rebounded Monroe in the opening half in 23-14 and finished with a 10-rebound lead off the glass. The biggest way that you counter a poor shooting performance behind the arc is to shoot well from inside the arc, and they did that. They were 29 of 61 from the floor as a whole, while holding Monroe to 38%. With that loss, Monroe became the 11th preseason top 25 team to lose in 9 days into the season. Let's go ahead and jump into the Lakeland Lakers. The Lakers had the highest scoring duo for the game against Kirkwood, with Aaron Davis scoring 21 points and Ahmad Roberts scoring 20, while Diari Duncan netted 15. However, they drop that game 86-79 again to Kirkwood in the John Wood Classic in Quincy, 2-day classic. So they turned around and got another surprise win, in my opinion. Southwestern Iowa is a big time program out there. It's them and it's Indian Hills, seems like all the time over there for that district. Lakeland got 23 points, including 4 trays from Tyler Chapman, and an 86-74 win over Southwestern Iowa, like I said, in the classic against Quincy, in Quincy. D.R. Duncan also added 16 points and 9 rebounds, while Aaron Davis had 15. Again, this win and the Olney win that I just talked about are probably the 2 biggest upsets in the district this week, and it's good to see the Central District being on top of that for once, because Logan, no way to sugarcoat, they've been underperforming so far as the defending national champions, and starting 1-3. It's just nice to see Olney and Lakeland start to pick that up. Now, is this going to continue on for the Lakers? Who knows? Same question is for the Blue Knights. Who knows? But to see 2 big wins this week, especially on a down week for the district, is really something to see, and it's going to be very interesting heading into district play coming up here in a couple of weeks. Let's go ahead and jump into the Vincennes Trailblazers, and boy, Coach Franklin set out a mission for these guys to play better this weekend than they did last weekend. And let me just say, this VU fan and former manager is very impressed by this team. They had 6 players in double figures, led by Matthew Nader Colombo, who hit 4 of 5 from behind the arc and scored 18 points off the bench, all in the second half in their opening game of the McDonald's Classic against Daly. Michael Osei-Bonsu scored 14 points and held in a career-high 19 rebounds, and he only did that in 20 minutes. See what happens when Michael gets to have playing time and is not in foul trouble? He puts up points and rebounds. VU cruises in this opening game, 143 over Daly. And this is where they faltered a little bit against Columbia State. But as they got ready to play a more difficult opponent in Monroe, let me just touch on a couple more stats from that Daly game. They were feeling it from behind the arc, 10 of 27 from 3 points, and they ripped down a staggering 62 rebounds. I don't care who you are, 62 rebounds in a ball game is extremely impressive no matter who you're playing. Let's go ahead and jump into possibly the biggest matchup of the weekend, and it was Vincennes versus Monroe. Coach Franklin challenged them to come out and not play scare, not play timid, and they did it. And they came out and they won 84-66 in the final game of the McDonald's Classic. 4 players scored in double digits, led by LeBron Thomas, who scored 20. He also grabbed 9 rebounds and doled out 7 assists. Kyrique Dixon came off the bench and had 18 points and 12 rebounds, while Ryan Oliver really saw his first extended amount of playing time off the bench. Chris King had 12, and this game was typical Coach Franklin basketball from tip to final horn. Yes, they have quite a long way to go, in Coach Franklin's words, to be where they are, but he gave them their credit. He put a challenge out to them, and they stepped up and they did it. They led by 20 points in the first half, and they let up the gas a little bit. They led by 10 at the half. Really, again, here's where was the big advantage for Vincennes. It was the rebounding. It's always going to be the rebounding when it comes to a Coach Franklin-led team. They won the rebounding battle 44-25. And the reason why this is really huge is not only did they win this battle, both teams turned the ball over 17 times. So you turn the ball over, yes, that's a lot of turnovers, to be honest with you. But you turn the ball over 17 times, but you win that, you force 17 turnovers as well, and then you win the rebounding margin by that much. That is a classic Coach Franklin recipe. Limit the turnovers a little bit, though, guys. And you guys will cruise throughout the season. It's good to see that they came back and they answered the bell when Coach Franklin put it out there. And finally, the last team that we need to cover, and the reason I saved this team for last is because they hit a milestone this last week here. As Shawnee jumps to 4-0 on the season, they win their game easily against West Kentucky Tech, 108-51. The Saints got 23 points from Johnny Anderson, with 3 others also reaching double figures. Keyshawn Washington, Lincoln Lockhart had 18 points each, and Corey Brooks had 15. Shawnee, again, 4-0 on the season. They are one of those teams that is scrappy and that will battle each and every night. It doesn't matter if they are top 5 in the district or the bottom 5 of the district. It's always a tough out once they get to Ina. You put them in the quarterfinals, and it's anybody's guess on what's going to happen here. And that is because this week, a massive, like I said, a monumental thing happened here, and it was Coach John Sparks recording his 300th victory with that win over Kentucky Tech on Wednesday night. Coach Sparks, 21st year coaching the Shawnee program. He came in 2003. The Saints became NJCAA Division I in 2012. And again, when I'm trying to get these coaches on, I'm always a fan of the district. With Coach Sparks especially, his team is one of the teams that have always scared me. All these teams scare me when it's Vincennes against these teams, especially when I was playing them. We had a good figure on how we were going to attack them. But with Coach Sparks' teams, they were always scrappy. They always fought tooth and nail until the final horn. And I love the way that his team has been able to do this year in, year out. 2020, they lose to Vincennes well, it was a host there, so Vincennes hosted that game. The following year, they came back, beat Vincennes after trailing by 11 in the second half, as Vincennes went ice cold, shooting the ball. But Coach Sparks, again, his team never gives up, never quits, and I'm really hoping that I am able to have him on so we can talk about this in more detail on the podcast here in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, I've already reached out to Coach Sparks, just waiting to hear from him, and it will be an immense honor to have him on, especially talking about his 300th win and what he really had to do to get Shawnee into the situation that they're in now. Again, congratulations, Coach Sparks. Well-deserved victory for a well-deserved coach. So let's go ahead and jump into the week of games here for the district as we just finished up the recap. Again, congratulations to Coach Sparks on a big-time milestone. Hope to have you on the podcast here soon. The week gets started off tonight, November 13th, as Lakeland hosts the Milliken JV team, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central. On Tuesday, November 14th, Vincennes has a battle on their hands as Kankakee comes into the PE complex. Lincoln Trail travels to Mineral Area, hoping to put a win on the board for the district against the Cardinals there. And SWIC at Moberly, Lincoln Trail, Mineral Area, SWIC, Moberly, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Vincennes will tip off at 7 Eastern Time. Wednesday, November 15th, Kaskaskia and Southeastern will play 7 p.m. Eastern Time. SEMO Prep at Lakeland, again, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Tennessee Prep at Shawnee. Hopefully the Saints can go 5-0. On November 16th, again, big time matchup here. Mineral Area versus John A. Logan for the second time this year. Hopefully the Vols can pick up a win against the Cardinals after dropping the opening game 89-60 on November 2nd. And then we also have Malcolm X coming into the PE complex 7 p.m. Eastern time as they take on the Trailblazers. Friday, November 17th, there's one game on the docket. It is Kaskaskia against Simmons College at Kaskaskia, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Saturday is where the big games are. All these games are Eastern time. Lincoln Land at Lakeland, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Olney Central again at Triton. That's going to be a big-time matchup. Let's see if the Blue Knights can continue and win against a team that goes to Hutch on a seemingly yearly basis. Missouri Baptist continues their track against the district as they take on Lincoln Trail, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Wabash Valley hoping to get their first win of the season against Oakland City JV. That's at Oakland City, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Probably the game of the week, if you're not counting Mineral Area Logan. It is Indian Hills at the PE complex taking on the Blazers, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Both teams are preseason ranked and will continue to be ranked as the polls get released later on tonight. And finally, Shawnee hosts Tennessee Prep 8 Eastern time. So big slate of games going on here for the district. It's going to be a fun week. I cannot wait to see it. That's going to do it for this week's episode as we wrap up here. Again, I want to thank the coaches allowing me to cover the district. I want to thank Dave Hunter for providing a lot of the stats and whatnot to make sure that things go smoothly for me. And lastly, I want to congratulate John Sparks. Once again, I've done it a couple different times here the last couple minutes, but really 300 wins is nothing to scoff at, and he deserves all the credit. Until then, I will see you in the next one.